Yeah, hello, my name is Mike Fong, and I have been in the digital analytics and digital data space for my whole career, which is 13, 14 years and counting. And in my time in this space, I've seen a lot of things go wrong. And so today, as we're all trying to build the future of e-commerce, we want to look back at the mistakes of the past, and we know that the future is built on data. We know that AI, is the thing that everyone's getting really excited about. But you've heard the phrase crap in, crap out. Imagine how quickly you can crap out with AI giving you all that scalability. Okay, so let's talk about I've been at ObservePoint for 9 years, and ObservePoint is well, actually, let's go back. When I was an analyst at the start of my career, what you might call a reporting monkey, I was Monday reporting or monthly reporting, end of year reporting, whatever, arbitrary time period reporting. You'd always run into situations where the data was broken or the data was missing, or we've got infinite growth on a year-on-year basis. And fundamentally, working in the digital marketing and analytics space, it's a space that's existed for 25 years, really since the inception of the internet. But it's also a fast-moving, exciting space. So it's always changing. So unlike, you might have a DB database, you might have a data warehouse, these systems have kind of been very stable, they're very under control. You've got systems architects, solutions architects saying, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that. Well, actually, in digital, it's kind of the opposite. It's like everyone's saying, we've got to be agile, we've got to move fast, tag management systems, just plug it in, let's give it a go. And ultimately, you end up with a situation where basically, it was like a Wild West. And it was a Wild West where there was no QA process. And so that's really where ObservePoint comes in. So ObservePoint is a solution to help organizations of all sizes ensure that their digital analytics, digital marketing, data compliance, all these technologies are actually working as intended. Who in the audience can wholeheartedly put their hand on heart and say, I know how my marketing and analytics teams are checking that the tags are working? Okay, let's roll that. Who knows what a tag is? Yes, okay. Right room. Cool, okay, second question. Who knows if your legal team has policies regarding GDPR? Hands up, everyone should put their hands up. And who can tell me if those legal teams have the capability to check that what they're demanding is actually what's happening on the websites or the apps? Okay, good. That's also what I expected. So, today I'm going to give you some really, really tangible examples of what that situation can lead to. Some of the mistakes I've seen in my 9 years at ObservePoint. So, let's start from the beginning. Firstly, data discovery. Many organizations fall into the trap of not really knowing what tech is on their website. Typically, we would go into a customer's website for the very first time, run a scan, and you can see just on the top of the screenshot, we scanned just 46 pages. And on those 46 pages, right at the top, there's 76 unique tags. So that is to say, there is a lot of MarTech on this website. So data discovery, knowing what you have on your site, knowing what you're spending your money on, what packages, what subscriptions, what is loading, what's slowing the experience down, what technologies are overlapping. Do you need two A/B testing tools? Do you need like GA360 and GA4, even though GA4 is now gone? So that's all about data discovery. That's all about data mapping, a really big one as well, in both data privacy, again, governance, but also just pure functionality. We'll come back to how this affects functionality later, but from a data perspective, you need to know what data is transferring, what tags are loading via the tag management system, what tags are not loading via the tag management system, and how that all interacts with your concept management pattern. And finally, data governance. We're talking about things like GDPR, CPRA, where is the data going, what kind of data is going where. So we've got some great examples. Actually, that is our first example of that one as well. And everything we do at ObservePoint, we can help organizations check their pages at scale, multi-brand, multinational checking, but also we can work in a staging environment. So actually, rather than figuring out that there is a bug in the production environment, actually catching the same bug in the QA before you publish to your GTM, or before your dev team makes a brand new e-commerce funnel and forgets to tell the analytics and marketing team. Here are some of the brands we work with. We work with some of the largest and small, so very scalable pricing model. Banks, retailers, pharma, auto, you name it, we work with them. So, let's talk about the very first example. And I'm just checking my time. Okay, cool, bang on. So, right, everyone knows this, right? Email addresses are PII. You shouldn't be revealing customers' email addresses. Well, one of the stories that came out kind of maybe 4 years ago and that we experienced and we saw at ObservePoint is that one of our clients, they were working with a marketing agency. And the marketing agency was running a competition with them. And so they had a competition landing page. And on that landing page, you could enter the competition and you had to enter your email. Now, after completing that, the page would redirect the customer to the landing page of the actual client brand. And they decided that the best way to track who the client was to basically stick the URL and stick the email address and simply append it to the URL. So it ought to be like this. You see the top left corner here, jpstyle.us, that's the landing page. Question mark query parameter email equals myperform@observepoint.com. Now that's a big, big problem because, let's go back to this first screenshot. Potentially in this situation, all 76 of these trackers might just track that email address because by default, many trackers track the URL. And that's a problem because that's very much against GDPR. So you've got a problem that's 76 times bigger than if it were just one. Additional problem is that many of these vendors have contracts in place which specifically say you should be storing PII in our databases. And so the end result was that this retailer, they had to somehow figure out what technologies were on their site. Then they had to go back to each of those vendors and say, could you delete this data from this time period to this time period? And for some of it, the retailer said, but the vendor said, yeah, okay. Some of them said, we can't just delete the URLs, the emails, we're going to delete everything. So they lost a big chunk of data. And some other vendors said, okay, we'll do it for a price. So the cost of a little mistake like that, the time it took to figure out how many vendors were collecting that data, and all those breaches of contract, right? That is potentially X number of breaches of contract. So this was a really bad one. We've seen other examples like this. We have seen passport numbers being passed into things like Google Marketing. So that's another bad one as well. Okay? So, let's move on. Another one, cookie banners. And this is a bit of a history lesson. So about 10 years ago, cookie banners used to look like this. There wasn't much of a choice. It was just, we use cookie banners. Sometimes they would jazz it up, sometimes they'd have a nice image, sometimes they would tell a joke. But fundamentally, there wasn't a choice. But fast forward a few years. What's this? Yeah, so fast forward a few years, and you get to the point where the GDPR comes out, and cookie banners are supposed to have both accept and reject buttons. Okay, that's 2018. So the ICO, all the DPAs around Europe, they give everyone a bit of an opportunity to catch up. And then this is one of those model cookie banners. And this is actually on the ICO's page. Now, in case anyone's from Europe, the ICO is the Great Britain's Information Commissioner's Office, which is our data protection authority. So this is their webpage. You think this is the model citizen. And so basically, this is how things should have looked since 2018. However, a lot of organizations thought, we're going to lose data. We're going to stop tracking people. We can't do that. We need to track people to target our marketing. So many organizations started to work on the dark art of opt-in rate optimization. I'm sure everyone is aware. I'm sure you'll know teams who are responsible for this. So things like this, opt-in rate optimization. What's happening here? You convince the customer that it's Christmas, and then they'll click on the green button, right? So this is a basic one, make the green button. It's a psychological trick. Hopefully more of them will opt in. Okay, so positive messages. Let's have another one. This one actually it's kind of almost a time actually goes backwards. So quite bluntly, just not having the reject button. And also the positive messaging. This website uses cookies to improve your experience. So you're kind of telling customers that having cookies is better. Actually, the GDPR says you can't deny customers any functionality on your website, even if they decline cookies. That's explicitly stated. So really, this really was not okay back then. But then, last year, the ICO really toughened up. And they said, right, enough's enough. We've had enough of this gray zone. We've had enough of people opt-in rate optimizing. Say that really quickly. And so they sent out a message to 30 of the biggest organizations in the UK. They said, we will name and shame you if we judge that your CMP isn't up to scratch. They said, we've previously issued clear guidance, there must be a reject all, and there must be an accept all button. So I've been waiting for the name and shame list. It hasn't come out, which means hopefully all of those 30 organizations have set up and met those requirements. And hazard a guess that maybe some of you in this room maybe work for these organizations. I don't know who they are, but you know, this is a conference in London. There's some big brands here. Okay, so that should be it, right? This is the homepage of a major news organization in the UK. This was taken after that deadline for name and shame. But what we can see here is actually the CMP is there. Obviously, I've blurred it to make them anonymous, but you can see the CMP is there. It's not been interacted with, but still, there are all these marketing and analytics tags. We can see Google Analytics, we can see Facebook, we can see ComScore, whatever that does, some kind of advertising pixel. So it's not just the intent, it's not just making sure that your cookie banner is there, it's not just making sure that it's a fair cookie banner, but it's also actually, and this goes back to data quality, just general quality. Humans make mistakes. Humans can have the best intent in the world, but they will still make mistakes, so the website can change, the content management can break. You can have a situation where you think your CMP is actually working, but actually it's not. And this is a brilliant example of that. And it's not down to the technology, it's down to human error, communication error, things falling in the gaps. So, here's a summary of those 3 examples of just PII being sent to places it shouldn't be, the cookie banner being missing or still trying to squeeze into that kind of gray area. They call them the dark arts of opt-in rate optimization, or simply the cookie banner not really working. So how does this feed into the future of e-commerce? Well, if you can't get, this is a really big important issue. Governance, there are big fines. I mentioned £3.8 billion, but we'll see where that comes from in a moment. But if you can't get such a big, tangible aspect right, how are you going to get something as subtle as your data quality? And if you can't get your data quality right, how are you going to build a data science team on top of that? How are you going to build personalization powered by AI on top of that? Data quality is foundational. You would not launch any product without having a quality assurance process. You want a car or a chocolate bar or a website or a mobile app. So why would you spend millions on potentially a marketing program or an analytics program and not have something in there better than just a human checking every so often? So where does that 3.8 million come from? 3.8 billion. So this is a cumulative chart of all the GDPR fines that have been levied since 2018. And that's 4.4 billion euros, or just about 3.8 million pounds. And I did take this a few months ago. There haven't been any big major ones recently, but it is over time creeping up as usual. And if we break that down by the type of violation, you can see the very top one there, non-compliant with general data processing principles, that's GDPR principles. Nearly half of those fines, or nearly half of the sum of those fines, I should say, is simply basic things basic examples like I just went through today. So hopefully, hopefully I've opened some eyes and you thought maybe, oh, how is my organization changing? Actually, I depend on the data to be right, to build whatever I need to build in the future, or my digital transformation program. So if that is the case, ObservePoint, we're sponsoring today. We have a booth near the front door. So if you'd like to come and get a free scan from us, or you'd like to check out whether your tags are broken, your CMP is broken, or your cookies are, if you're prepared for the third-party cookie deprecation, these are all things we can help with, and we're even able to scan your website immediately today. Okay, so with that, we'll talk quality assurance. We're going to talk about a different kind of quality assurance now, a different kind of QA. It's a Q&A. So I've been told that there are microphones floating around, and so if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Otherwise, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Oh, one in front.
Yeah, what you just mentioned, I think it resonates with everyone sitting here. So thanks, Mike. But what do you suggest? I mean, because marketers cannot sit idle, so they need to follow people what they are doing. So what do you suggest? How do we do this in the current world with all these complications in place?
Yeah, absolutely. So we highly recommend a philosophy of minimization. So the less third-party stuff you have on your website, that means tags, that means cookies, that means pixels, that means beacons, whatever you call them, it's third-party stuff in my technical lingo. You minimize that, the complications decrease. In fact, website complexity is not linear, it's actually exponential. So having 10 tags is more than twice as complicated as having 5 tags. So minimization. And then what do you do with, how do you minimize this? Firstly, you have to scan your website, you have to audit your website. You can't just look at one product page, look at the home page, look at the checkout page and say, oh, I've done my job, I know what's happening. You do need to do a more scalable, automated kind of QA, and we can help with that. Thank you for the question. Any more? Okay, great. Well, thank you very much.